thought it was a joke. Solve this, and I'll hand you $100 million. The billionaire sneered. Sure, no one could. But when the maid's daughter stepped forward, the world froze. What impossible problem had crushed the world's smartest engineers? Why did a child from the shadows see what no one else dared to? And how did one answer flip power, pride, and money upside down in a single heartbeat? Because when her voice cut through the silence, the man who owned empires could only sit back, jaw unhinged, unable to speak. Before we begin, if you love seeing the underestimated rise and the arrogant fall, hit like. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe. The room was filled with tension. Khalid Alahim, one of the richest men in the world, leaned over his massive glass desk and sneered, "Solve this problem, and I'll give you $100 million. Fail, and you will never set foot in this tower again." His voice echoed like thunder, and every executive in the room flinched. Engineers had tried for weeks, using the latest machines and computers, but the problem was impossible. The building, a glittering skyscraper reaching high into the sky, seemed alive, humming and vibrating in ways no one could understand. Sitting quietly in the corner was a 12-year-old girl, unnoticed by anyone. Her name was Khloe Hayes. While others whispered and panicked, she simply held her sketchbook and watched. No one expected that this quiet, small girl, the daughter of a maid, would be the one to solve what the world's smartest people could not. The tower wasn't just any building. It was a shimmering giant made of glass and steel, rising high above the desert like it touched the clouds. Every floor was filled with the world's richest people, and every apartment sparkled with luxury. Engineers from Germany, Japan, and the United States had flown in with the most advanced machines, trying to find out why the building was humming and shaking. They ran tests, measured vibrations, and checked every structure. But no one could explain it. The floors sometimes shook, chandeliers swayed by themselves, and tiny cracks appeared in the marble. Residents were scared. They complained about headaches and sleepless nights. Reports piled up, each one ending the same way. We don't know why it's happening. What kind of mystery could make the smartest engineers in the world admit defeat? And while the billion-dollar tower trembled, a quiet girl in the corner was already noticing something no one else did, a secret hidden in the building itself. Khloe Hayes was just 12 years old. Her hair was the pale color of corn silk, and her eyes were as blue as a summer sky. She didn't speak much, and most people didn't even notice her in the bustling boardroom. While the executives and engineers argued and panicked, Khloe quietly opened her worn sketchbook. She drew lines, arrows, and patterns, tracking every movement she could feel from the building. Her mother, Jessica, worked as a cleaner in the tower. Khloe had followed her everywhere, silently observing the world around her. While other kids played video games or scrolled on their phones, Khloe watched. She noticed the smallest details, how the floor vibrated, how the chandeliers swayed, and how the air seemed to hum in strange rhythms. How could a young girl notice something that even the world's top engineers couldn't? No one realized that the quiet sketches in her notebook might hold the secret to saving the billion-dollar tower. The tower's strange behavior was getting worse. Floors shivered under the weight of the building. Lights flickered without warning, and chandeliers swung as if caught in a storm. Tiny cracks appeared in the polished marble floors, and a few windows even shattered, scattering glass across empty terraces. Residents complained of headaches, sleepless nights, and an eerie feeling that the building was alive. Engineers were baffled. They had checked everything, foundations, wind pressures, materials, but nothing explained the hum. Every test, every calculation, every computer simulation ended in failure. Reports were returned with the same 3 words: "We don't know." Even the billionaire, Khalid Alahim, paced the boardroom like a caged lion, his fury growing with every failed attempt. Why was this tower acting so strangely? And what force could have everyone, experts, engineers and billionaires, stumped? And while the adults scrambled in panic, Khloe quietly pressed her small hand against the floor, listening, as if the building itself was trying to tell her a secret no one else could hear. Khloe sat quietly in the corner, her sketchbook open on her lap. Her small fingers gripped a pencil as she traced lines and arrows across the page. She wasn't drawing the view outside, or the fancy apartments. She was drawing the tower itself. She marked how the wind flowed around the building, how the air seemed to twist through gaps in the glass and steel, and how certain floors vibrated more than others. She could feel the hum in her teeth, in her feet, and even in her chest. While everyone else saw chaos, she saw patterns. She noticed tiny movements no one else noticed. the sway of a fin here, a whisper of vibration there. It was like the building was speaking, and she was the only one listening. What exactly did she notice that could explain why the tower was failing while the world's smartest engineers failed? And then, as she drew the last arrow, a thought struck her, a solution so simple, so clear, that it could stop the building from shaking, if anyone dared to listen. The boardroom was silent. Khaled Alahim, the billionaire, glared at the engineers, his jaw tight and his hands trembling with anger. Charts, reports, and computers had failed him. No one had answers. He turned his sharp eyes on Khloe, the small girl sitting quietly with her sketchbook. With a deep breath, Khloe stood up. Her hands were steady, her voice small but clear. "Sir, I think I know what's happening." The room froze. Executives leaned forward, engineers exchanged nervous glances, and investors whispered in disbelief. How could a 12-year-old child possibly explain what the world's top minds couldn't? Could this quiet, observant girl really hold the key to solving the billion-dollar problem that everyone else failed to fix? Khaled's eyes narrowed, part disbelief, part curiosity. And in that moment, the fate of the tower and everyone in the room rested on what she would say next. Khloe opened her sketchbook and pointed to the arrows she had drawn. "It's not the ground causing the hum," she said softly. "It's the wind. The building is whistling with the air passing through its structure. If you listen for a hum, you'll miss the real sound, a whistle that moves with the wind." The room went completely silent. Khaled Alahim's eyes widened in shock. Engineers whispered to each other, trying to make sense of a child explaining what their advanced machines could not. Investors leaned in, their eyes fixed on the small girl who had just changed everything. Could her simple, clear observation really solve a problem that had stumped the smartest minds on Earth? And just as the first hints of understanding reached the adults, a sudden tremor ran through the tower, leaving everyone holding their breath, wondering if her solution would actually work. Slowly, the building seemed to calm. The hum that had rattled every floor softened. The chandeliers stopped swaying, and the tiny cracks in the marble no longer spread. Engineers and investors exchanged stunned glances. Khaled Alahim sat frozen, his mouth slightly open, realizing that a 12-year-old girl had solved what his billion-dollar resources could not. Khloe's small hands rested on her sketchbook, but her heart was racing. She hadn't just solved a puzzle, she had saved a building, its residents, and millions of dollars. The adults in the room were learning an important lesson. Sometimes the smallest, quietest voices are the most powerful, but what happens after the billionaire's pride is shattered? Will he accept her solution, or will he try to take the credit for himself? And just when everyone thought the crisis was over, Khloe noticed something new, a tiny shift in the wind that hinted the story wasn't finished yet. The room slowly settled. Khaled Alahim, once proud and arrogant, now sat in quiet disbelief. The world's richest man had just learned that even the most powerful cannot ignore the smallest voices. Khloe Hayes, the maid's daughter, had reminded everyone that observation. Patience and courage often outweigh money, machines, and experience. Her mother Jessica looked on with pride, understanding that her daughter's quiet nature and keen mind had just changed the fate of a billion-dollar tower. Engineers and investors nodded, finally seeing the truth in the simplicity of her insight. Moral: never underestimate the quiet, the small, or the overlooked. Great solutions can come from the most unexpected places. Tease for next story. And if you think this was incredible, wait until you see what Khloe notices next, something that could change not just one tower, but the entire city. The wind whispered secrets only she could hear, and the real adventure was just beginning. If you love this story, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes that even the smallest voice can make the biggest difference.